But Jay Ferg, first things first, we are recording this just minutes after one of the craziest press conferences I've ever seen. Yesterday, Nick Saban calls out Jimbo Fisher. Then Texas A&M sends out to all of its media members, hey, Jimbo's talking at 10 o'clock Central Time, buckle up. And then he just rails on Nick Saban and calls him out for several different things. And it seems like the vast majority of the college football world is like, okay, Jimbo, good for you for sticking it to the man. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, I think it's deeply entertaining. I said this on Twitter, but I think this is the most Texas A&M thing possible because it's so insecure. Like, yeah, hey, Texas A&M, you out-recruited Alabama this past year. You did it. You won. And instead of being like just living with it, Jimbo Fisher could not stand the fact that he's been called out. And that's kind of a Texas A&M thing, man. They don't like being called out, and they will make a scene and make a spectacle because they have the money to do so at all turns. And so this is a good example of it. Yeah, I mean, like, this is just kind of, I won't even say blowing the lid off of it, of the whole NIL thing, but it's like, yeah, this is what's happening. And this is the back and forth that's created. Like, it's made people a little bit more bolder to, like you said in the intro, say the quiet part out loud. Like, yeah, right. We know this is happening. We know college football players have been paid to go to schools since the dawn of time, right? It's just a little bit more open now, and you can get away with a lot more stuff publicly, it seems like, in the age of NIL, especially in an age of NIL where there are no guardrails, really, because the NCAA screwed up so badly. They dug their heels in, and they didn't want change so much that you're going to have stuff like this come out. And so, yeah, it's deeply entertaining. I mean, I don't remember in my time, covering college football of a coach calling out another person by name quite to this level, right? Like, you had the weird pace of play stuff with Gus and Brett Bielema, and Saban got thrown into that as well. But that was kind of like, back and forth. It was a lot of veiled kind of hits at other people. This is just straight up like, hey man, you're broke and we didn't cheat. Like that's kind of the crux of it. And it's amazing to watch.
It is. And I mean, the fact that he called him a narcissist and he's not going to take his call. He's like, he tried calling me yesterday. I didn't answer. We're done. It's like, it feels like middle school drama. He said, she said type crap. And I am here for it.
He said that he should have been slapped. Like that. Think about that. Jimbo Fisher came up and said, Nick Saban, for acting like this, my daddy would have slapped you. And somebody probably should do that. Like, that's basically what he said. And it's like, that's incredible. And he's like, everybody says he's got a college football. Well, I'm going after it. And like, he just unloaded. And it's like, look, I mean, these coaches don't like each other. When you recruit and you compete at the very highest level, it's hard to have like, good relationships. I think back to like, we see these examples all the time in college basketball. Some guys get along and some guys in college football get along. It's a lot more adversarial, especially when you are swinging for the fences in recruiting and you are going at recruit. The most interesting part in all this is like Lane Kiffin's going to be Lane Kiffin and just kind of, take shots at the side. Very interesting. And they won't do it. He won't do it. I think he's smarter than that. But like, where is Kirby Smart in all of this? Because they just won the national title and he learned from the best. Like, he had the Saban playbook. And they're the team to beat right now in the SEC. I think whereas Jimbo went off and was like, because like we know that Alabama and Georgia, even though the Kirby and Nick have were together for so long, we know that there have been some back and forth there about recruiting. Especially when Georgia started dipping into Alabama's territory and snagging some top folks. I would imagine Kirby's going to stay silent on this, which is probably why he's a smarter coach than Jimbo Fisher. But it's so Jimbo, it's so Texas A&M that it's like, yeah, it's incredible to watch.
Yeah. And then the whole, like, we've built him up to be the czar of college football. And he's like, he knows where the bodies are buried. It's like, take it to his past. And it's like, why are you saying that, man? Like, that is just such a weird approach. But the most fascinating approach to all of this for Texas A&M's point of view, in my opinion, is ever since A&M, even before A&M came into the SEC, what was their messaging to the world? It was, we got a lot of alumni. We're a massive school. We have a massive fan base, and we have so much money. It's crazy. And then NIL rolls around, and they're like, no, we're just small town. We're just a small town coaching staff. And it's like, own it. If you believe you're not doing anything wrong, just own it.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of Clemson and Dabo to it as well. Or
no
it's like,
question.
yeah, we all know what's going on here. Like, you know, and that's the thing. It's like if you recruit players at a high level in college football, I don't care who you are,
right?
There is stuff going on, whether it's above board, beneath board, you know, whatever. Like, there's no. I mean, let's just be honest. Like, this is an Auburn podcast. Cam Newton came to Auburn. Like, you know, like we don't have to sit here and act like this is not. And I think a good thing is like Auburn fans, maybe more so that I think I've seen from Texas A&M fans and Alabama fans throughout all this, is like, especially I think the younger generation of Auburn fans are like, heck yeah, we should be paying people more. Like that's kind of the thing there. And I think that's a good attitude to have because this is what the sport is, right? You know, trying to have a moral majority, like just try to have this like, oh, look at that. Oh, we do the things the right way and you don't, you know? And I think there's a little bit of what Alabama's doing there. Cause like, here's the thing about Alabama at this point where it's like, you know, they don't necessarily need to like outbid everybody. They can just point to the NFL and say, hey, look at that. Let's do that. You know, you can come do that. But like, still keep in mind, this is the funniest part of this whole story. This is all over Texas A&M having the #1 recruiting class in the country over Alabama. Alabama was number 2. And I think in some ratings, like if you look at average, you know, star rating or average recruit rating, they even beat that A&M class. A&M just had more guys.
They had more, right?
And it's like, this is what's breaking you. This is what's breaking you. Like somebody pointed out, I think it was Stephen Godfrey on Twitter. It's like players are getting money right now. And the big shots in college football cannot, like, it has broken people's minds in record time. And it's so much fun to watch it play out.
It's crazy. And people are always pointing and like, oh, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And it's like, I don't know if that's true. I don't know if I'm fully in on like, you know, what's currently happening is bad and broken. It's just different. And we've got to get used to what's going to happen. And I'm not expecting a whole lot of changes over the next few years in regards to the payment.
It's dysfunctional, right? It's look, I mean, guys
have always been that way.
Yeah.
And the whole parody stuff, like that that doesn't make sense to me.
The parody thing is
not
insane.
about parody. Right.
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, before Saban did whatever that was in Birmingham on Wednesday night, his last thing was like, let's get back to parody in college football. It's like, brother, what are you talking about? You're one of the main reasons there is no parody. Yeah. Like, no, that doesn't like, there's only like 30-something teams that have ever won a real national championship in college football ever, period. And like half of them are in the Ivy League. And like, you know, it's because they were the only ones playing for a while.
Right.
No, it's crazy. It's like, I think NIL could be approached a whole lot better the way it's currently said, because there just are no rules. And what you have now is you have schools saying like programs doing whatever they want with no repercussions. And then other ones that are trying to follow the rules or what they think the rules are. And they feel like they're at an unfair advantage. Right. And it's like, it's different if you say you're at an unfair advantage and it's because the other side's cheating. Right. It's a little different when it's like, oh, that's technically not cheating, or that's technically still above board because there are no rules in place. So I think we're racing fully ahead to one of two things happening.
Okay.
We're either going to get really strict and really clear guidelines about what this is and what you can do and what you can't do, because the NCAA's got to, or I mean, it might not even be the NCAA. I could see, you know, when people talk about the Power 5 breaking off and having their own thing now, college football playoff system basically operating at its own, you're gonna have to do that. Or we're approaching a world where it's like, hey, y'all are employees, let's just pay you just directly from the school. You've got the money to do it, you can do it. It's just like you're gonna do that one or two ways.
Yeah.
And you know, right now they're trying to hit the middle lane, and it's like there's no, you're running through a ton of traffic cones and everybody's mad.
Before we put a bow on this conversation and we move into Auburn's latest edition, Luke Robinson just tweeted out, he hosts Locked On Bama. He just tweeted out, at this rate, the only people who can afford tickets to Bama, Texas A&M on October 8th are Texas A&M recruits.
It's like the players in the game. The players in that game are going to be the only ones who have the money to pull that off. That's the thing, though, man. Like people, it's A&M is one of the great what ifs in college football because they really don't have a ton of history, championship wise.
Right.
But man, they've got more money and more resources than pretty much anybody, save for Texas proper, maybe Alabama at their best. They swing money wise with an Ohio State. And that's crazy to think about because Ohio State's gigantic, but like that's how it is. And Texas got a lot of oil money. If you're the ag school and the engineering school in Texas, you're going to rack up a lot from all the resources out there.